The Locked On Cubs live trade edition. I'm Matt Cozy. Vince from Locked On Dodgers expected to join us at some point to break down the first Cubs trade of this 2022 trade season as the Cubs deal pitcher Chris Martin to the Dodgers for infielder, outfielder Zach McKinstry. McKinstry, a utility man of sorts. He has been up and down with the Dodgers the last couple of years. He's been with the big league team periodically. And so we'll break that all down for you. Kind of going on live here is a test drive as we can infer that the Cubs are going to make the first of many moves here with this trade season. Just as we're going on the air, or just as we went off the air actually last night, Luis Castillo traded from the Reds to the Mariners. And just as we're going on the air this afternoon, David Peralta has been traded from the Diamondbacks to the Rays. So it looks like the trade winds are blowing fast, and we should expect some movement really from this point until Tuesday's deadline, which is a little bit later in the day. I just discovered this morning, 5 Central Time is when the deadline is on Tuesday, which could create for an interesting dynamic with players getting ready for games and kind of reacting in the moment in MLB clubhouses across the country. So that could be interesting. So the Cubs trade Chris Martin to the Dodgers. Okay, Martin of a 4.31 ERA in 31 innings this year. What's astounding by Martin is the strikeout to walk ratio. And that's what makes it a good move for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers aren't always about I'll tell you what they are about, actually, and we'll try to get Vince in here at some point. But the Dodgers want to maximize all 26 roster spots. We know that they have a great roster. I don't know everything about their bullpen. I know Martin makes their bullpen better. Dave Roberts likes to utilize different people in different roles and be able to maximize the value at the back end of the pen to set up Kimbrel. And now Martin is in that mix. Okay, 10-1 strikeout to walks. Any team could use that. And I'm not surprised that this was the first person the Cubs traded, because I thought a reliever would go off the market first. And sure enough, it is Chris Martin. So, he's a rental reliever. You have a couple more rentals that are attractive in this market with Michael Givens and David Robertson. Do those deals happen this weekend? Potentially. Drew Smyly is supposed to pitch tonight for the Cubs in the Bay. He's a rental pitcher that could be used out of the pen or a spot start or a sixth man for a team. So we'll see if he still makes that start tonight. But yeah, just reacting in the moment. Wanted to come on live here. We'll check out the chat. We have a hello from Bernie. Jeremiah says, hopefully we can trade Ortega. I think he's definitely somebody that is going to be out there. And I think, the biggest thing right now with this trade with the Dodgers is looking at McKinstry. Hey, who do the Cubs get back? The Cubs are not getting a quote-unquote prospect back. And for Chris Martin, did you really expect a prospect? Probably not. You would have gotten a minor league player, but how much value is that person going to have? So in McKinstry, you get a 27-year-old lefty bat. He's been at AAA most of this season. I think he actually just got called up within the last week. We'll bring in Vince in a minute from Locked On Dodgers. But this is clearly a guy the Cubs are going to try to unleash. What hit tool does he have still to come? And we'll see if the Cubs are able to tap into that. Defensively, McKinstry can pretty much play anywhere. That's why he has that utility label. But I think going off the Jeremiah comment, what you're kind of ringing a bell in my mind, and thanks for contributing to the live episode here. What happens with Ortega? The Cubs are certainly willing to listen on him, but what about like Wisdom now? What happens with Wisdom in the next few days? Is there a team that sees his value as being up there right now? And if they do, the Cubs could certainly pounce on that deal and now shift around their infield, and McKinstry could take over one of those spots. Of course, You look at Nick Madrigal coming back. How does this all mix in now? That's going to be part of David Ross's job down the stretch. And we could see down the stretch here, McKinstry can really hit. And regular at bats, I think, is really going to benefit somebody like that. Let's see here. We're going to bring in Vince now. Okay, here we go. I don't think Vince realized that we were live. Let me see if I could get my graphic correctly here. Maybe. There we go.
There we go.
I had to do the crossover graphic, Vince. I had to do it.
I feel it. First one of trade season for the Dodgers.
Yeah, first trade for both clubs. So thanks for jumping on with me in a pinch. I appreciate that. And it's nice to speak with you for the first time. Did you expect, or do you expect still, even after this deal or kind of entering the deadline, the Dodgers to be one of the more active teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting case because, they've been linked to the big names, and I feel like they're linked to the big names every year, whether it's for leverage or whether they're actually interested or whether it's just they made one phone call and that's what generates interest. But it's one of those where they can do nothing and still be in a pretty good spot. They could obviously make some moves and be in a better, maybe a little bit better spot. I think at this point they're, Friedman will make moves on the margins. That's what this kind of moves is, move on the margin, probably an upgrade from a couple of their lower tier relievers and someone that has had, experience in the past in the postseason and everything else. I do expect them to still kind of be linked to, maybe a Frankie Montas, obviously the Juan Soto. They apparently called on Ohtani. But I kind of expect them to make some of these smaller moves and kind of build around the margins, those 25, 26 man rather than, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 man.
Yeah, that's a great position to be in as a team like the Dodgers. I started my open with that. They have such a good roster as it is, so to maximize the on the margin is a really good benefit there. So what can you tell us about Zach McKinstry? Because I think it was a surprising return for Chris Martin, but to get a big league player for Chris Martin, respectfully to Martin, again, who's been excellent out of the pen, I think Cubs fans are intrigued.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised. I was not expecting to see McKinstry as the return. I was thinking maybe a lower level minor league guy or something like that. But, realistically, he's been on the team multiple times throughout the year and hasn't really played. The Dodgers in the past have had more of a, platoons and here and there and guys moving around. But this year they've been a little more set in their lineup. Freeman and Trey Turner played every day. Gavin Lux has pretty much played every day. Justin Turner's pretty much played every day. You got Will Smith behind the plate and Betts and Bellinger, and then whoever plays left has kind of really been the only roving spot. So there wasn't necessarily a spot for him to kind of get consistent at bats. And for me, I think of a guy like you guys, with Ian Happ. I think you can maybe consider him as an Ian Happ light. He doesn't hit from both sides, but he can play almost every position. He has shown to have a pretty good stick in the past. I mean, last year, he started on the opening day roster kind of unexpectedly, and over the first month of the season, I mean, he was hitting almost 300 with a few home runs and a bunch of RBI, and was, kind of kicking at the door of Rookie of the Year just in that first month. Obviously, it was a very short time. Then he got hurt and came back and never really quite found his stride. But like I said, for a guy that can play any spot in the infield and play the corners in the outfield, it's I think it's really good for you guys, especially a team that is kind of on the rise. You got the team control, and realistically, it didn't fit on the Dodgers, but I think he's going to do pretty well over there in Chicago.
So hitting over 330 in AAA this year. So do you believe, and I really like the Hap Light line, with regular plate appearances at the big league level, could he be a piece on a good team?
I do think he can be a piece with the bat. Like I said, last year he started off with consistent at bats and was, had an 883 OPS over the first month. I think he carried an OPS over 750 up until like July. And then he kind of fell off, didn't really have anything there, but he was, starting once or twice a week, not necessarily a consistent at bat. Right. And I really like his bat profile. He has a good eye. He makes contact, which was something the Dodgers lacked last year from some of the other guys that came through. And yeah, I don't think he'll be an all-star, but I think he'll be a pretty good, solid player that, can maybe OPS around 750, climb to that 800 range, give you double-digit home runs over the course of a year, and, fill in wherever you need him. He played a lot of shortstop in AAA this year. For the Dodgers, he's played mostly outfield and a little bit of second and third. So, yeah, they'll find I'm assuming the Cubs have some spots open, or they may have some spots opening up here as the next few days kind of roll by.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Vince, for telling us about Zach McKinstry. And that's going to do it for us here live. Wanted to just jump on quickly and test it out. The plan is to still jump on after each trade and at least give a little dose of what happens. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. For Vince from Locked On Dodgers, check them out, especially if they bolster their team with Juan Soto or others. And continue with us here on Locked On Cubs.